pretty interesting one to begin with today. She's going to say she's anonymous, and after reading the question, I can understand that. I've been married to the best God-focused, caring man I've ever met for 2 years. I want to please him in every way that I can. He's very good at giving me affirming feedback about being a great wife to him. He recently opened up to me about one of his sexual fantasies, which involves bringing another woman in the bed. I am happy that he was so honest and open about his desires. A little different response than some wives, parenthetically. Solomon, not everybody be happy about that. Solomon and David both had multiple sex partners in the Bible that they did not call wives, they were called concubines. I feel uncomfortable, really, with the idea and a bit convicted because I do not believe that sex was created to be out of wedlock and the other female would have to have sex out of wedlock to fulfill this fantasy. Not to mention that your husband would also be being adulterous, but we'll save that for later. Question. Well, we did get to a question here. I'm kind of joking about this. Seriously, I do understand that this has got to be a great dilemma, but I am a little surprised that he normalized this. Question: how do I reply to his request without condemning him, while at the same time keeping our intimacy as a couple, even though I do not feel comfortable fulfilling his sexual desire? Okay. Well, let me tell you this before we get into this. I think you get Caller of the Day award for your lack of reactivity to this and the way in which you have listened to him and you don't want to condemn him, this and the other. I do agree with you that on a number of things, actually. When you say you're happy, you're so honest about it. So how cool? How cool is it when couples can talk about their fantasies and desires and all of this kind of stuff without being threatened by it, without, as long as it's in the kind of fantasy range, when he's actually saying, I'd like to like purchase a ticket for this and, bring these people in, that's a different issue. But the fact that you can talk about it, I think that's really cool. It's really important. I think in some people's kind of progress in the the whole way in which their sexual relationship develops, because they need to understand each other's desires and fantasies and fears and all that. So it's great that you can talk about it. Great, go great. It's great that you don't want to condemn it. Um, I I am a little surprised that this what do you call him, God focused caring man, would kind of think that this would be okay and justify it by Old Testament concubines. That was a little different deal. But anyway, I'm not trying to condemn. I would say, nice idea, not a good idea. You don't want to do this. You would be an adulterer in that moment. Um, but let's get to the your question. How do you reply? Say, say what you said here. I'm really glad you could share this with me. I actually want to hear more about what the fantasies would sound like, and there's a reason for that. But thank you for telling me. And but I really don't think this is okay. I don't think that this is something that this is how God designed things. So that you just tell him sort of what you said here, and don't worry about setting limits. I'm a little worried about you're maybe a little too adaptive to kind of trying to please him a little too much in a certain, kind of spirit of this. All right. So having said that, let me say this. Um, many, 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 many times, people's sexual fantasies are a really important kind of doorway into what's going on inside of them. Now, I don't know him, but I'm going to just give you one example of this, and this is kind of how you would begin to go explore this. Um, many, many, many times, people will have, for whatever reason, there's dynamic conflicts in either in their heads or in the relationship itself. Okay, so for example, very, very common for a person to have different parts of themselves that have not been integrated. Okay. So let's say in him, there's a noble, loving, God fearing husband, and the sexuality that's connected to that part of him, is sort of like, metaphorically missionary position, nice guy, right? So that's kind of who that part of him. But he's never really integrated some of his wilder sides, maybe his more passionate sides, maybe his more lustful sides, and those kind of are sitting over here. So instead of integrating those and bringing that all of that to one love object, which means you, he's created the need for two women to match his different splits. Okay, in the old days, you would hear this as kind of the Madonna whore complex that men would have. So they'd have, there's like this one kind of, wifely mother figure in their heads, but then there's, the sexy, lustful, hookerish type, and that's where a lot of affairs would come from as well. Or is his fantasized woman more nurturing, or idealizing and sees him as wonderful? A lot of times with porn addictions, you see people, you learn a lot from their fantasies about what's missing inside. And so he's probably wanting more than one woman to relate to more than one parts of himself. Now, the answer to this also, well, before I get to that, the flip side of that is true, that he's kind of got you locked into this little view of who you are, okay? Who's probably the loving, caring wife, and this, that, and the other. And he's wanting to bring this other sexual partner in to relate to that partner himself. Well, that should be integrating that view into where he can see you as not only loving, caring wife, but also the lusty, sexual, hot mama, right? So if both of you can begin to integrate all these different sides of you and bring all of those different sides of you into a bed with only two people, then you've got multiple partners in two bodies. You get it? So sometimes sex is nurturing and caring. Sometimes it's playful. Sometimes it's lusty and just sex for sex. Sometimes it's almost a healing reconnection with the two of you. There's a lot of different ways that the sexual relationship can and should be expressed. Okay, but a lot of different ways doesn't mean a lot of different people. And so when people don't do this well, they either have affairs or they have multiple partners or they have web porn fantasies. But the goal is to be integrated. The goal is to be integrated. Go read the Song of Solomon, and you see lots of different expressions there. Okay, so I hope that helps. You guys keep talking about this and bring all your talk to him about your fantasies.